Ric Bucher will join us. He just wrote a very interesting, insightful article on Bleacher Report about how several GMs were saying that none of the players, not one, not Klay, not Kawhi, not KD, not Kyrie, although Kyrie didn't technically sign a max because he gave a little money to DeAndre Jordan, but none of the players are worth a max contract. All right, so here's what they said. I'm going to read some of the quotes. It's really interesting. Here's a former player who now works as an executive. He was asked to define what a max player is to him. Here's his quote. A leader in the locker room and on the floor. Someone I'm confident and comfortable giving the ball to in late game situations. He's leading my organization on and off the court where we need to go. Guys that I played with, guys that I continue to watch, I want them to get as many dollars as possible. But when we talk about the term max guy, how many of those guys realistically are there? Now, here's a general manager, anonymous, of course, on Kawhi Leonard, as far as in regards to max player. Kawhi is great at getting his, but he doesn't elevate anyone. He doesn't rally his team. He does have leadership qualities, but it depends on how you define leader. He's obviously not vocal, and he's not a galvanizer. He does it with his work ethic and by example. Here's another GM from the Western Conference. The other one was from the East on Klay. He says he's a good player, but he's not a leader. He just shows up and hoops. Aaron, I got a lot of stuff to say about these quotes, but first I want to give you the floor.
Yeah, first of all, I want to shout out these two anonymous GMs who are about to soon be anonymous ex-GMs, because if you don't think Kawhi and Klay are worthy of max dollars, then honestly, I don't know what league you're watching. And, you know, I listen, I get in this utopic, perfect society, your star player has all of these qualities. But just because Kawhi isn't super vocal, or KD can be moody, or LeBron has off-the-court interests, it doesn't mean that, one, when the light comes on, that they're not ready to play, two, that they can't be the face of your organization, and three, that they aren't worthy of every single dollar that we're paying them. I just think it's a preposterous concept, and if you want to argue about certain other players, that's fine, but certainly Kawhi and even Klay Thompson, I just don't even know how you can make the argument that they're not, whatever the term is, franchise players.
There is no argument. And it makes you wonder what in the world are some of these guys thinking and how are they running teams? For a guy to say this about Kawhi Leonard, he doesn't elevate anyone. He doesn't rally his team.
He elevated a whole country, by the way.
Thank you. He's not a galvanizer. Hold on. He just went to a team that was absolutely shook in the presence of LeBron James. A team that couldn't get out of its own way whenever they saw LeBron James. A team that froze in the presence of LeBron James. And he led that team to a championship. He had no second star in the Big Three era. No second star. All these other teams got to have three superstars, and it's the Big Three and all that. And he doesn't even have a second star, and he wins the championship. How is that not lifting other guys, making other guys better, elevating them? Look, Kawhi Leonard is this. Here's how Kawhi Leonard galvanized his team. He went in there as a superstar, listened to the coach, gave the coach respect, bought into the system, didn't complain about what they don't have, didn't complain about being in Toronto, didn't complain about, I want to go to Southern California. He just showed up, kept his mouth shut, was friendly with guys, became friends with guys, led by example, and fit into the system. That's it. And that's all I want. I don't need you to entertain me with comedy or to be the biggest talker and, giving, Newt Rockney speeches. That's all nice if you can do it. But if not, produce on the court. And Kawhi Leonard has done just that. Let's not forget, Aaron, the last time we saw Kawhi Leonard in a Spurs uniform during the postseason. What'd he do? He had the undermanned Spurs up 22 points on the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant. Now, I don't think they would have won that series even if Kawhi had stayed healthy. I actually don't even think they would have won that game. But I don't know. That's just me. The facts say they were up 22 and Kawhi was leading them over a much more talented team. This dude produces. I mean, he's arguably the best player in the world. And if he doesn't get a max, who in the world does?
Well, and that was my thought when I read this, is if Kawhi isn't a max player, who is? And it was funny because you mentioned off top that, I've covered a lot of college basketball in my day, and I remember talking to Chris Beard, who's the head coach at Texas Tech. They made the Final Four this year. And I remember asking him about kind of leadership and all that kind of stuff. And he said, sometimes the best thing you can do as a leader is to follow. And what he meant by that is exactly what you said, Chris. Not everybody is, yay, rah, rah, we're going to run through a brick wall. And Kawhi was the ultimate leader in the fact that he led by example. It's what you said. It's what I said. He put an entire organization on his back. He put an entire country on his back. And I just, I don't know if this GM is speaking from a place of jealousy, stupidity. I don't know where it comes from, but I don't get the idea that he could be anything other. It makes no sense to me. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Is he saying that he wouldn't pay Kawhi max money, or he just because if that
there's no way he wouldn't pay Kawhi
exactly.
Max money.
I froze there because I'm sitting there thinking, what could he have possibly meant? Because if there were 30 teams in the NBA this year, and all 30 of them would have paid Kawhi any dollar amount that they could have to get him to the organization. So to me, it just makes no sense at all.
No question about it. And look, Kawhi Leonard. Part of why I'm so confident that the Clippers are going to be great is because Kawhi is just what this guy said.
Yes.
He's not vocal, just does it with his work ethic, does it by example. He's just going to go fit in. And he's going to be great. He's going to be their best player, but he's going to fit in. Think of so many of the other superstars who bring, more of a personality. They're more colorful. You have questions about them.
Of course.
Are they going to work with this guy? Are they going to work with this team? It's going to take them a long time to adjust. I think Kawhi is going to fit in swimmingly. Yes, swimmingly in the Clippers organization and locker room because of his personality. And Klay is similar. Now, he's not as good as Kawhi, but he's a great defender, two-way player just like Kawhi. I think, Aaron, one half of the greatest backcourt in NBA history. And so to say he's not a max player, again, kind of ridiculous.
Well, and I think the other thing, too, the ultimate compliment to a player is who else wants to play with him. And think about what Paul George did this summer to make that happen. Like he literally put his reputation on the line. He put his... I don't want to say he put his career on the line, but we'll never think of Paul George the same way again because in a lot of ways, he just bailed on Oklahoma City. And the point that I've made on all the shows that I've been on, including my own on Saturday nights, it's not as though Oklahoma City did not live up to their end of the bargain at all. Now, did they fall short? Yes, but they made the playoffs. They won 49 games in the regular season. It wasn't as though they won 22 games and Paul George was just looking for a life raft out of there. And so for Kawhi to convince that guy, hey, give up everything you're building. A year ago, you were smoking cigars with Nas at a party in Oklahoma City at midnight. Give all that up to come with me. I also saw, I don't know if you saw this, Chris, but at Summer League, I think it was Lou Williams and Patrick Beverly walking through a casino at 1:45 in the morning whenever they found out. They're doing jumping jacks and cartwheels in the casino at Summer League, and I think that's part of leadership too. What do you get out of your teammates? What do you bring to the practice facility every day? But do guys want to play with you? I know it's something you and Rob talk about all the time. LeBron James, do guys want to play with him at this point in his career? I know you feel differently than Rob, but the point being, there is no doubt that guys want to be around Kawhi. I think that's the ultimate compliment to him.
I agree. And I think guys would want to play with Klay as well.
Yeah.
This guy said he just shows up in hoops. I mean, you need guys like that. I don't need everybody to be in the team's business.
I agree.
I don't need everybody to feel like they've got something to say. You need guys, a few guys like that. some guys that are rah-rah and talk all the time and want to say this and that. Some guys that might, hold the coaching staff more accountable than other players. But at the same time, I need guys that are low maintenance.
Yep.
And that's what both of these guys are. Kawhi Leonard and Klay Thompson are probably the most low maintenance, off the top of my head, stars in the league.
100%. And Klay Thompson is what I said with Chris Beard a minute ago. Sometimes the best leaders lead by following. And that's Klay. Klay just comes in, does his job, whatever. I want to ask you real quick, because I was thinking about this when I was reading this article. I do think it's interesting, the concept of a max player, the face of a franchise, whatever. I think we get so caught up with, oh, so-and-so is a superstar, so-and-so is this. And the number of guys who really do kind of check all the boxes, I think, is actually smaller than what most people realize. All I heard all year, Kyrie Irving's a superstar. Well, they lost in the second round of the playoffs, and his team went further without him than with him. Ben Simmons, well, he can't shoot a three. How many guys do you think are actually true, either superstar, franchise players, difference makers? Because I do think that list, I will give the GMs and all them credit for this, is I do think that list is probably smaller than most fans want to give credit for.
No, I agree with that. Now, you have a ton of guys making max money that can't lead a team and can't be the best player on a really good team.
Yep.
Okay, with all due respect, Tobias Harris, he's not going to be your best player on a championship team. Chris Middleton.
Yep.
Chandler Parsons, for goodness sake, got 2 max contracts during his career.
What a life that guy has.
Right. Charmed. He's the most blessed player in the league. I get that, and I'm with you on that. There are a lot of guys that don't deserve the max. They get it because of timing, circumstances, whatever it may be. D'Angelo Russell, not a max player, but he got it. And so the problem with the article was them picking on Kawhi and Klay.
Sure.
That was where they went awry. But I get exactly what you're saying. Look, if you want to say a max player, the ultimate definition is a guy who can be the best player on a championship team. How many guys do we have in the league right now that have proven that? You got Steph Curry, LeBron James, and Kawhi Leonard. Now, some people might say KD, because he was obviously the best player in Golden State. My only thing with that is I would say that team was so stacked.
Sure.
That, you know what I mean? Like, you could have put a number of guys in that position, not to take anything away from KD, and those teams would have won those titles. When he was in Oklahoma City, he didn't lead that team to a championship, as close as they got. Now he'll have his chance in Brooklyn. We'll see if he can do it there. But really, you're really talking about 3 guys who have absolutely proven it. So, I think these guys, and remember this about the max, Aaron, it's not what these guys are worth, or what at least the top superstars are worth. There's a cap on it. LeBron James should not be making the same amount of money as Damian Lillard.
Great point. Yep.
Right. So, interesting article. We'll ask Ric Bucher more about that in about 15 minutes. Also, remember, it's a Trash Talking Tuesday. Get your takes ready. You can trash anyone or anything in the world of sports. That'll be at 877-99 on Fox. But for the time being, you have got a chance to weigh in on what Aaron and I talked about with this article. Are Kawhi Leonard and Klay Thompson max players or not?
Up first, Sean in Sacramento. You're on The Odd Couple with Chris Broussard and Aaron Torres.
My point is, man, I think guys like Kawhi and Klay, that's the definition of a max player right there. They could go both ways. They keep their mouth shut. They do whatever's best for the organization. And when you see guys like Klay fight through an ACL tear to go shoot 2 more free throws to try to make it back in the game, how could you say he's not worth the money? But see, I have a different take on guys like KD, LeBron, AD. I don't think these guys are max players.
Wait, LeBron James and Kevin Durant aren't max players?
Kevin Durant's coming off for an Achilles. And on top of that, Kevin Durant's inside his early 30s. I mean, it's hard for me to say that you should pay this guy a maximum contract of guaranteed money for the next 6 or 7 years when you're not even sure what you're going to get next year.
It's only 4 years.
And LeBron's starting to show signs of his age. I mean, the guy had a lingering injury all last year.
But let me ask you this. When they gave him, so it was a year ago they maxed out LeBron. You saying they shouldn't have done it?
No. I think the Lakers were desperate. I think the Lakers were looking for a lifeline because of all the issues that they were having over the past 5, 6, 7 seasons. I think they were just going for whatever's available. And I think they were lucky that AD was with the program trying to figure his own brand and come to LA. Otherwise, they'd be stuck in the mud right now with a hurt LeBron James next year.
Well, as it stands, they got a chance to win the title next year. What about that? All right.
I guess Sean's
silence.
Gone. Yeah. I'll say that, listen, I think that the Lakers have certainly struggled to attract marquee guys the last couple of years, but when indisputably one of the handful of greatest players, first, second, wherever you want to put him, when he wants to come to your organization, regardless of where he is in his career, even if you got to max him out. There was no way you're not going to max out LeBron James. I still believe, I think he checked out about halfway through the year. Once he got hurt, once he was slow to come back, he didn't want to play for Luke Walton, he didn't want to play with those young guys. I think next year we're going to see a vintage LeBron James here now that he has his guys with Anthony Davis and all them here. So
I hope so, and I agree.
All right, next up, JaMychal in Seattle. You're on with the Odd Couple, Chris Broussard and Aaron Torres.
Hey, what's good, fellas? Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Yep, no problem.
So this is what I honestly think that Kawhi is a max player, but Klay, honestly, man, I think he's a glorified role player. I'm not saying he's not good, and he won't make a couple All-Star games, but I don't think he's like a max player. I think he's a system player. And like I said, if he had to carry a team on his own, I don't think he maybe might average 20 if he had to carry a team on his own. So I don't think he's like a superstar or anything like that. I just think he's like a glorified role player who's stuck in a system. But
he would average 20. Now, how good would the team be? That's the question. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Well, with Klay, though, the reason why I would say he is max in a sense is because he works with the system of Golden State. If you understand what I'm saying, he's the best one to fit the position that he plays better than anyone in the league in Golden State. So that's why I think for Golden State he's a max player. But overall, no. If I was a GM, I wouldn't give him max money.
He's one of the best shooters this game has ever seen.
That's true, though. But I mean, so was Steve Kerr, though.
Yeah, but Steve Kerr couldn't defend like Klay, and he wasn't 6'6" or 6'6", 6'7" like Klay. Klay is a bad boy, man. He does get underestimated.
And I do think sometimes, we talked about this a minute ago, max contracts are circumstantial. Is Chris Middleton a max player? Of course not. But you got to keep Giannis happy. You got to have pieces that fit around Giannis so he becomes a max player in that system. I get what JaMychal is saying. I do think, though, he was underselling the value of Klay a little bit. Just because you're not the yay, rah, rah, I want the team on my back guy, doesn't mean that you're not really, really good at what you do, you know? So,
Aaron, I think he's James Worthy.
Yeah.
They're different styles of play, but they were each the third guy on their team, and they were invaluable. And James Worthy was the MVP of that last championship of the Showtime era in '88, the Finals MVP. Had phenomenal series, and Klay is similar.
Well, and he was second on a championship team in terms of the second best player that first year, second best player on this year's team that obviously was in the finals, swept the Portland Trailblazers. You know, Chris, there was a big narrative long time ago. The original Dream Team, '92. I'm sure you remember. Everybody went into the whole thing thinking Michael Jordan this, Magic Johnson that. The narrative coming out was that Scottie Pippen was the second best player in all of those practices, and nobody realized it because he had been playing in Michael Jordan's shadow. I'm not saying Klay's Scottie Pippen. I'm just saying I don't think that he gets the credit he deserves because he's been with this group that obviously includes Steph Curry and Kevin Durant.
No, that's fair. That's fair. All right, look, it's a Trash Talking Tuesday, so get your takes ready. 877-99 on Fox, 877-996-6369. You can trash anyone or anything in the world of sports. You better line up now. We'll be taking those calls. We'll get to you at about 6:40-ish, but you better line up now because the phone lines get full quickly. In the meantime, we'll continue the basketball conversation with FS1 NBA analyst Ric Bucher. He'll join us next, but after we get to David Gascon for what is trending. Gascon.
I'd like to trash the guy that called me Ralph Irvin. I'd like to do that in full.
Rob G.
Oh,
fighting words,
throwing
Rob
that
G.
guy under the bus.
It's just a fact. It's just the truth.
Hey, I'm mad at you. It's all good. I'll get Robert back later on. He owes me Taco Bell, by the way, Chris, so just a heads up.
He owes us wings. I know he
Does he?
got out of the wings.
Man, well, everybody owes Rob Parker wings, so whatever.
I know, Rob is ridiculous. We should put Rob on a lockdown from betting wings.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Still not gaining any weight. Guys, we'll start things off in the National Football League. A couple of notes here. The NFL has suspended Vikings running back Rock Thomas for the first 3 games of the upcoming season after violating the league's substance abuse policy. Former Bucs defensive end Robert Ayers has retired after 10 seasons in the league. And then Pro Football Talk earlier today had reported that a source close to Rob Gronkowski says there's a 40% chance he could return at some point this season and play for the Patriots. In Major League Baseball, a tight affair in Philadelphia. Phillies leading the Dodgers 6-5 in that contest. Walker Buehler gave up all 6 runs. Only 2 of them have been earned. Blue Jays lead in Boston 6-4. Justin Smoke is 2 for 2, 15th home run of the season. Reds in Chicago lead the Cubbies 3-2. And it's the Brewers 3-0 lead over the Atlanta Braves in the home half of the 4th. Mike Moustakas is 1 for 2 with a base knock of his own. Twins and Mets locked up at 2-2. Diamondbacks and Rangers 1 up. Marlins are pounding out the San Diego Padres. It is 11-4 in the top of the 7th inning. Back to the Odd Couple in just 10 seconds, but first a word from Farmers.
At Farmers Insurance, we know a roof can withstand a lot. One exception being an airborne car. Seen it, covered it. Talk to Farmers.
We are Farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
Gentlemen, back to you.
Thank you, David. It is the Odd Couple. Aaron Torres is in for Rob Parker. I'm Chris Broussard. We're coming to you live from the Geico Fox Sports Radio studios. It is easy to save 15% or more on your car insurance with Geico. Go to geico.com or call 800-947-AUTO. The only hard part is figuring out which way is easier. I believe we have our Bleacher Report senior writer. He's a FS1 NBA analyst, longtime friend and colleague of mine. Ric Bucher joining the Odd Couple. Rick, what's happening?
What is happening, Odd Couple? How are you?
We're good. We're good, man. We're good, and lots to talk about. You know, this season, this league, it just never ends, man. I mean, it's always something happening, and we come out of free agency. We got the Westbrook trade to Houston, and you write a great article today. We read it on the Bleacher Report. We just talked about it in our previous segment. Were we reading it correctly when a couple GMs, or maybe more than a couple, said they questioned whether Kawhi Leonard and Klay Thompson were max players?
Yeah, in terms of the full responsibilities of a max player, ideally, and that you want them to be a floor leader, you want them to be vocal, you obviously want them to be great players, but it's not just about talent, and that if they're not, then there's an automatic, it's a workaround, because the hierarchy of who gets paid what in the locker room, if it's not commensurate with the roles that guys have on the floor, then there are potential issues, like we saw in Boston, where you have Gordon Hayward signs a max deal. Obviously gets injured, it takes him under. The team ends up playing well. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum play well. Gordon Hayward comes back, and he's on a max deal, but he's not playing like a max player. And that is just a microcosm of the issues that you run into in paying a guy a max contract. Now, teams are forced to do it, and you understand why they do, because you want to retain that talent. But there's also a price to be paid when you do that. Signing Klay Thompson to a max contract isn't just, is he worth that money, but is he worth what it costs you not having as a result of that? If they can't keep Draymond Green for financial reasons, is Klay good enough paired with Steph that you say, well, you know what, we'll be fine losing Dre? Or do you look at it and go, dang, if we could have paid Klay a little bit less and maybe kept Draymond Green, like if the Bucks could have kept Malcolm Brogdon and paid Chris Middleton a little less, we would be better off. And so that was the essence of the piece, which was, you know, we hand out these max contracts, but we don't consider the repercussions of one guy making that much money if he can't fill all the responsibilities of being a max player.
So one GM specifically referenced that he doesn't believe that Kawhi isn't a max player because of the fact that he's not a vocal leader, etc. So I would ask, and obviously I'm not going to put you on the spot about which specific GM, but if Kawhi isn't a max player...
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you want to share, you're more than welcome to. But I was going to say, if Kawhi's not a max player, who is? Because KD's hurt. LeBron was drinking wine on the bench last year. So who fits that? Who fits that if it's not Kawhi?
Well, I do think it is LeBron James, and that he is willing. He can be the face of your franchise. He's willing to handle the media. He can be your go-to guy. He can be your leader, your all-around leader. I think Steph Curry fits that category, and some of it can be circumstantial too. Like, I feel that Steph Curry, while he may not have max talent, you could argue isn't on the level of LeBron and Kawhi and KD, but he's the face of your franchise. He does all handles all the media and handles it in an amazing way. I mean, really, the only thing we're talking about with Kawhi is the fact that, as I stated in the article, one, he doesn't like doing media. He's not going to be out there publicly doing things and making appearances for your team. And if you look at him as a playmaker, he's really not. He can go get his, and he'll draw a lot of attention, which opens things up for other guys. But if we're talking about the ultimate max player, the guy who checks all the boxes as a max player, I think it's reasonable to say there's one or two that Kawhi doesn't. Now, was he the best? Was he the best max player on the market? And would any? Yes, but it's still on the other end of that is, okay, so what do we have to put around him? Now, do we have to add a vocal leader because he's not that? So he doesn't fill every responsibility, and now normally if you have a max player, if you're paying him 35% or whatever of your cap, then you ideally would want him filling every responsibility that comes with that. You wouldn't be thinking, I got to go get other guys to fill roles that this guy doesn't.
It's the Odd Couple. We're joined by Bleacher Report senior writer and FS1 NBA analyst Ric Bucher. Rick, let's move on to Chris Paul. Is there a market for him? I mean, it looks like Miami is maybe lukewarm on him. If it's not the Heat, where in the world is it?
I've heard Minnesota as a possibility in terms of where they are and what they might be willing to do. It's the challenge is going to be Chris Paul is a very proud player. He still wants to play for a title. I would assume that he wants to be in a bigger market. And so, the Oklahoma Cities and the Minnesotas, I don't know necessarily fit with where he wants to go. And this is going to be the challenge for Oklahoma City is, can we do right by Chris Paul and get off the contract and not have to give up anything? I had one former GM who said, that he thought that they would move him along and it wouldn't take as much, it wouldn't cost as much to get Chris Paul. And I'm thinking, honestly, it's a matter of what you're going to have to give a team to take him. I think they're going to have to give up. Is it a first-round pick? Is it 2 first-round picks? What is it that you have to give up? But ultimately, and I was told that Oklahoma City did not do this deal knowing that they had a locked-in destination for Chris Paul. They're going to try to move him, regardless of what they say. He's not part of their plan. I'm sure that Chris doesn't want to play in Oklahoma City in a rebuilding situation. But as of right now, they're looking around to see where can they make a deal, and I would say what costs them the least. But Miami may be lukewarm. I mean, as we know, too, there's a lot of posturing going on right now, too, as far as, the same thing with the Warriors. Hey, we didn't sign D'Angelo Russell to move him, right? It's we'd be happy keeping him. Yeah, sure. Okay. I'll believe that when I see it.
Rick, quickly, is a buyout a possibility with Chris Paul, or is that just too much money?
I just think for the number of years and the amount of money, I mean, I think that would be a last-ditch move for them. And, I mean, it's very interesting because we talk about it, we look at the contract, and I've got, I've got people that have said in the league, man, that is a big contract for a guy who is clearly on the decline. And then I've heard other people say, you know what, but he still has more ability than we're giving him credit. I mean, he can still play a little bit. So all you need to do is find one in that second camp that is willing to say, you know what, we really need a veteran point guard for where we want to go the next year or two, and we'll figure out the rest later.
All right, Rick, great stuff as always, man. We appreciate the knowledge.